Why are most women attracted to bad men, even when they know they are bad? Why doesn't even danger, distance, or indifference break this attraction? Is it just a matter of wrong choices, or is there a deeper reason? According to Carl Jung's theories, the human mind begins to seek out the aspects it has repressed. Perhaps your attraction to bad men as a good woman comes from a desire to fulfill a missing piece deep in your soul. Perhaps your natural inclination to love, to mend, and to save unconsciously leads you down these difficult paths. Sometimes the void of goodness wants to be filled by trying to understand the darkness. And sometimes hope is tested by continuing to love someone you know will not change. Now it's time to look into the background of these feelings and discover your own truth. In this video, we reveal 8 hidden reasons why you, as a good woman, often fall for bad men. Watching it to the end will remove all the question marks from your mind, and believe me, what you will hear here you have never heard anywhere else. Now let's get started. 1. The allure of confidence. Bad boys, also known as wayward boys, often exude an irresistible self-confidence. This self-confidence radiates around them like a light and attracts the attention of those around them. The ease with which they walk, the recklessness in their demeanor, and their confident stance make them attractive. Many women are attracted not to bad behavior, but to the impressive presence that this confidence brings. Carl Jung once said, "Everything unconscious expresses itself in order to give meaning to our lives." When we think of Jung's quote, we realize that women sometimes do not understand their unconscious attraction to this self-confidence. On the outside, this self-confidence seen in bad men is a kind of inner search for security. Women often associate this confidence with strength and stability. But there is an important point to note here: the fine line between self-confidence and arrogance. True self-confidence comes from an inner strength, but arrogance is often a mask that hides emotional shortcomings. While a woman's fascination with self-confidence is understandable, it is critical to look for depth beyond the surface to avoid going down the wrong path. Because not all self-confidence is strong and reassuring, sometimes it is just a mask. Another reason for this is the sense of excitement generated by bad children. While monotony and predictability can become boring over time, bad children often offer a chaotic and surprising energy. Their sudden decisions, rule-breaking behavior, and inconsistencies make women instinctively feel alive. Considering Jung's theories about the unconscious, this attraction can also be seen as a reflection of the woman's own repressed desire for adventure. While leading a safe, organized, and responsible life in the outer world, being drawn to this chaotic energy in her inner world becomes an expression of repressed emotions. The bad boys represent this unknown and unlimited freedom, creating stirrings in the inner world of women. The element of mystery. It is as if there is an invisible smokescreen around the bad boys. It is not easy to know exactly what they are thinking, nor what they will do and when. This state of uncertainty arouses a strong sense of curiosity in women. Beyond all that is familiar and safe, there is an innate attraction to the unknown. Human beings are always interested in what they cannot comprehend. The unknown, unlike the ordinary, constantly raises new questions in the mind. Bad boys represent this unknown world. Their steps are unpredictable. There is a subtle ambiguity between what they say and how they make you feel. They can be warm with one look and completely distant the next. These erratic fluctuations keep the question, "What if?" alive in her mind. Every step leads to a new clue, every silence to a hidden story. Sweet tension created by the unknown pushes one to discover not only the other person but also one's own repressed aspects. Sometimes this mystery also works as an echo of the missing parts of the woman's own identity. Feelings she cannot define, desires she cannot make sense of, echo in the silence of the bad boy. The desire to explore, repressed in the unconscious, finds a body in this dark and unresolved figure. Every unexplained behavior, every sudden change of mood draws her in like a riddle. This mysterious atmosphere that the bad boys create around them adds a distinct dynamism to the nature of the relationship. The clarity and predictability found in ordinary relationships is absent here. Instead, an adventure is presented in which the next step is uncertain, and a new surprise can occur at any moment. As the woman navigates these choppy waters, she feels anxiety and excitement at the same time. And often, when these two opposite emotions are experienced together, the experience becomes even more intense, even more unforgettable. This is why the element of mystery is one of the most fundamental building blocks of the attraction to bad boys. Their unresolved state taps into the unconscious desire for adventure and discovery. As women try to understand this unsolved riddle, they unwittingly begin to confront the hidden questions within themselves. Because sometimes trying to solve someone else's mystery leads to the search for the unknown within oneself. 3. The desire for protection. Bad boys often have a tough, fearless, and defiant demeanor. This demeanor triggers a strong sense of protection in many women. The bold and unthreatening energy that bad boys radiate around them can be perceived by a woman not only as a posture but also as a fortress of refuge. Their headstrong walk, their indifference to obstacles can feel like a wall of protection against any danger. And it is precisely this feeling that is extremely attractive to women. Women can feel safer and more protected from invisible threats around bad boys. This protective stance is like a magnet, especially given the uncertainties, confusion, and disappointments of the outside world. This powerful image of the bad boys makes the woman feel, as long as he is with me, nothing can harm me. Perhaps the most appealing thing is that these feelings are not experienced in words but purely intuitively. Carl Jung once said, "The unconscious is always in search of security and completeness." This is an important key to understanding why the protective attitude offered by bad boys is so attractive. A woman's unconscious can find traces of that sense of security in the presence of a man with a stern posture. It is not only a search for physical protection, it is also an emotional refuge, a desire to find a small space of peace in the chaos of life. The fearlessness with which the bad boys act, their disregard for danger and their defiance when necessary make them unshakable and powerful figures in the eyes of the woman. In a way, women find in this figure a barrier against the corrosive aspects of life, a shelter against emotional storms. Being with the bad boy is like unconsciously stepping behind a kind of protective shield. This protective image adds a different dimension to the appeal of the bad boys. They are perceived not only as adventurous or mysterious, but also as people who stand up to the world, who make their own rules, who appear to be strong enough to eliminate threats when necessary. For women, this is not only a romantic attraction, but also a sense of existential security. Especially for women who have had fragile experiences or emotional disappointments in the past, such a protective figure can increase the appeal exponentially. 4. Bad boys are projects. Many women are drawn to the idea of changing a bad man. It is an idea that resembles the fairy tale, Beauty and the Beast. They believe that with enough love and patience, they can turn a difficult man into a loving and reliable partner. With this kind of fantasy, women think that they can fix a man who has not overcome his traumas, who is struggling with inner struggles. Carl Jung once said, "Man's reality arises from his inner powers, not from external pressures." This also describes women who, with the best of intentions, focus on the suffering of others and forget themselves. Women sometimes imagine that they can heal and support themselves through a relationship with a weak or problematic person. For them, this is seen as a duty, to rescue a bad man from his own darkness and bring him to the light. But this idea is often misguided. A woman's attempt to change a man with love and understanding can often deepen his insecurities, wounds, and dark past. This is because change can only truly take place if it is wanted by the person himself. Jung emphasized the importance of one's inner journey by saying, "Only when a person is at peace with himself can he find peace in the outside world." For a man or woman to change, they must do so out of their own inner need and desire. If a person is not ready for change, the healing efforts of others often only lead to more frustration. While women may want to change a man, they may not realize that their efforts often put them in the role of a kind of savior. Taking on the task of rescuing someone weak and troubled by offering their love and self-sacrifice can provide many women with intrinsic emotional fulfillment. However, such a relationship is often one-sided. The woman may lose her own identity in the relationship, constantly focused on meeting the man's needs. Carl Jung's quote, "Before a person can love others, he must love himself," is very important at this point. A woman who does not have her own inner strength, who seeks to heal others, may eventually feel exhausted. Expecting a man to change can only be a fantasy because change has to be done only for himself. And there is another important point here. Love should not be a means to make someone better. True love requires accepting the other person as he or she is. Trying to fix someone can actually mean using love as a kind of manipulation. Jung's quote, "Love is a bond that binds us to others. That bond must contain freedom," can change the way we look at relationships. Love should be based on nurturing mutual respect and understanding, not on changing. 5. Competition with other women. Think of the rich and spoiled boy at school. He is wearing branded clothes, a reckless smile, and an indifferent demeanor. Almost every girl in the school is after him. Everywhere he goes, the gaze turns to him. Girls compete with each other in an invisible race for his attention. For a woman, pursuing a man in such an environment becomes almost instinctive. When many women find a man attractive at the same time, he suddenly seems more valuable. The thought that pops into a woman's mind is simple. There must be something about this man. Maybe it's the desire to get something that everyone wants. Maybe it's the lure of being chosen in that crowd. The effect is strong, even if the reason is not clearly felt. This competition between women doubles the charm of the bad boy. He is no longer just a rebellious, self-confident man. He also becomes the favorite of other women, the one to be had. The fact that more than one woman wants a man raises his value in her unconscious. Because when something is wanted by others, it shines brighter in the eyes. Carl Jung once said, "Our unconscious appropriates the desires of others as if they were our own." The more the bad boys notice the attention of the women around them, the more relaxed and indifferent they become. This indifference makes them more attractive, and the competition flares up. Women sometimes cannot explain exactly why they feel such attraction. But the fact that other women are attracted to the same man only strengthens the attraction growing within them. It is as if that man is a prize that has been approved in everyone's eyes. Having him is not just an individual fulfillment, but an invisible victory. This opens another door to understanding why bad boys are so fascinating. 6. Outside the system, bad children never want to be like everyone else. They shake their heads at the rules, expectations, and limits imposed by society. For them, the sentence, "This is how it should be," has no meaning. No one else can decide what they should wear, how they should behave, what they should do, and when. They write their own rules and chart their own path. This rebellious attitude is extremely attractive for women, because this sense of freedom that the bad boys carry with them touches a place in every soul that wants to break its chains. They are not only an individual rebel, but also a challenge to unseen rules. The fact that they choose to live outside the system, completely out of the ordinary, makes them shine in a different light in the crowd. Women admire this uncontrollable nature of the bad boys. Someone who doesn't walk on set paths, who doesn't care about what everyone says, "This is how it should be," inevitably attracts attention. Because most people either live under the pressure of society or submit to it without realizing it. The bad boys, on the other hand, act regardless of that pressure, and this air of freedom brings to the surface the repressed desires in women. Carl Jung once said, "True individuality is born when we are able to transcend social patterns." This is precisely where women's attraction to bad boys comes from. They see in the bad boys the courage, freedom, and uninhibitedness that they suppress within themselves. Bad boys are different because they do not conform to society's judgments. And because they are different, they are unpredictable. In a woman's eyes, this unpredictability is much more attractive than the boring security of mediocrity. Being with someone who breaks the rules, not makes them, always opens the door to an extraordinary adventure. This is why bad boys are fascinating, not only because they are themselves, but also because they walk outside the system. 7. The search for depth. On the surface, the disorganized, reckless, or unruly behavior of bad boys may seem repulsive to most people. But for some women, this disorder is a sign of a deeper calling. Because beneath the surface of bad boys, there are often intense emotions, old traumas, inner conflicts, and repressed wounds. This layered structure unconsciously offers the promise of depth. Some women are driven by a desire to find a meaning, a reality in this complexity rather than just an ordinary and superficial happiness. For them, a relationship is not only a safe space, but also a journey of discovery. Love is navigating the dark alleys of the other person's soul and trying to illuminate it with their own light. In this process, the woman may feel like a savior, dreaming of finding and guiding a soul lost in the chaotic world of the bad boy. But this search is often a reflection of the need for depth that is lacking in her own inner world. Carl Jung put it this way: what you seek outside is what you repress inside. Therefore, the emotional turmoil presented by bad children opens a door to aspects of herself that she has not yet discovered or repressed. For some women, the peace of mind offered by men who appear smooth and good on the surface may seem shallow or fake, because an inner call whispers that life cannot be lived only on the easy and orderly side, that reality contains pain, passion, contradiction, and sometimes chaos. The bad boys, with their own wounded natures, appear as a gateway to this rougher but truer side of life. Consciously or unconsciously, the woman wants to have a real human experience in this chaos. But there is also a dangerous fallacy here. Depth is not always synonymous with destruction or chaos. True depth is not only found in pain or disorder. There is depth in wisdom, compassion, and a soul that can transcend itself. The attraction to bad boys can sometimes be a search for true spiritual depth, while at other times it can only be a harbinger of an addiction to pain. In Jung's words, unhealed wounds wound others. If the bad boy has not healed his own wounds, the person who is drawn into the turmoil may eventually be crushed under the weight of the same wounds. It is therefore a natural human experience to be drawn into the storms of someone's inner world. But it is very important to understand what this attraction represents. A true search for depth requires respecting both the other person's and one's own inner integrity. Simply trying to find meaning in someone else's chaos can halt our own spiritual growth. So when we approach someone, we should ask, am I being drawn into its depth? Or am I trying to fill an unfinished void within myself? True depth is the transformation of both love and pain. It is not just seeing a wound, but being able to bring new life out of it. 8. Facing the shadow women are brought up from childhood to be taught that they must be kind, compliant, self-sacrificing, and organized. Society wants them to suppress their anger, passion, and rebellion, almost forcing them to make their dark emotions invisible. But no suppressed emotion disappears. It retreats into the unconscious and transforms into a stronger energy. And one day, without realizing it, the woman begins to be drawn to the bad boys in order to live this dark side that she has suppressed within herself. Bad boys are the embodiment of the emotions forbidden by society. They are a living representation of freedom, lawlessness, and uninhibited passion. The woman experiences her own repressed shadow through this rebellious spirit. For some women, the bad boy is not just a partner, but a reflection of their own forbidden desires. When they are with him, they can put aside the good girl identity that society expects of them. They indirectly experience their inner restrained anger, passion, and desire for freedom. Carl Jung describes this inner process as follows: he who does not recognize his own shadow is forced to live it on others. In the chaotic life of the bad boy, the woman confronts feelings that even she cannot accept. She is both frightened and at the same time gets the intoxicating taste of liberation. At the beginning of the relationship, this experience creates a feeling of intense vitality. The woman may think that for the first time in her life she feels so uninhibited, so passionate, so real, because the bad boy offers her not only love but also a gateway to her own repressed nature. Over time, however, this passage can turn into a trap. Living her own darkness through someone else does not create a true inner wholeness, it only develops an addiction. While the woman thinks that she is completing her missing pieces with the bad boy, she may actually postpone facing the emptiness inside herself. True liberation is not in experiencing repressed emotions through someone else, but in recognizing and transforming them within oneself. A woman who does not recognize her own darkness is constantly looking for it outside, sometimes in love, sometimes in a storm, sometimes in destruction. However, as Jung says, "He who is not friends with his own shadow is a prisoner of his own fate all his life." A woman's true power comes from consciously embracing her repressed anger, desire, and freedom. The attraction to bad boys is a cry of emotions that women have suppressed for years. But this call must be heard correctly, because true love is not blindly embracing the darkness of others, but loving and integrating our own inner darkness. When a woman claims her own shadow, she is no longer tossed about by the chaos of another. She begins to take root in the depths of her own soul. In conclusion, the attraction to bad boys may appear on the surface to be a simple desire, but it is a reflection of deep psychological and emotional processes. Understanding women's attraction to bad boys helps us to understand not only relationship dynamics but also their own inner journey of growth. The search for inner depth and freedom comes not through someone else but through facing our own shadow. Accepting our own dark sides makes us both powerful and free. True transformation is not being caught up in the chaos of others but finding our own inner balance. This journey is the process of discovering the depth within each woman and ensuring her spiritual integrity. If this message has touched your soul, send the video to someone you love and go on this journey together. You can also become part of our family on your spiritual journey by subscribing to the channel. See you in the next video.